All right, Jen, thank you so much for joining me today to discuss your journey thus far dealing with ulcerative colitis. Thank you for being here. I'm so thankful that you're here to share your story.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. First off, can you tell me a little bit about what you were diagnosed with, how long ago, and what that's been like? Because I know your case has been light and you haven't had major symptoms. Tell me about what that experience was.
Yeah, so I would say like going back to like kind of the very beginning, like in high school, I was having some symptoms, GI symptoms, and then I went to the doctor. They were like, oh, just eat more fiber. And then I went back and my mom was like, you know what? She eats plenty of fiber. So she called the nurse and she's like, hey, something else is going on here. So she recommended that I cut out dairy. And so I cut out dairy. That did help up until I would say a couple years ago. I think it was in 2022, I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. For several months before that, I was having just severe like bloating, diarrhea, blood in my stool, mucus, and that was going on for a little while. I went to my primary care provider. She did a food allergy test. I tried cutting out the foods that I was allergic to, like gluten, dairy, soy, peanuts, and that helped a little bit, but I still had symptoms. So then I went to a GI doctor. And he said, you know what, like, it doesn't matter what like food you eat, you can just eat whatever you want. That food allergy test, it really doesn't matter. Like you have ulcerative colitis with proctitis, so it was at the very end. And so he just put me on this medication. He was like, you're just gonna be on this for the rest of your life. Good luck, I'll see you later. So
Oh, man.
he never checked any calprotectin on me either, like nothing like that. Never drew any labs. I was just like, a lot of the things that were popping up, I was like, you know what? Like, this doesn't seem quite right. I feel like food does affect like how I feel. And so I just started looking at more natural ways to approach maintaining ulcerative colitis in the long term. And so that's where I found Crohn's colitis lifestyle. So
Right. Wow. Well, amazing. And again, you didn't have major symptoms, but it's very interesting that, you would cut out all these. First off, you went from IBS to, no, you don't have IBD, to now you have IBD. So intuitively, do you feel like root issues that were happening in high school just exasperated until eventually created a diagnosis?
yeah,
But the
I think.
problems were always there. They just got worse over time.
Yeah. And I was actually on antibiotics for acne for several years, actually. And so I think that also made things worse and just really messed up my gut. Um,
Antibiotics, yeah, will
yep.
definitely destroy the gut. And so you diagnosed ulcerative colitis and you started seeing these holes where you're saying, I don't feel like I'm getting the full picture, that I'm doing everything I can with my medical doctor. They gave me a medication, no labs drawn, telling me food doesn't matter. And this is 2022, they're telling you this.
Right.
They're telling me this in 2010, right? And so I thought we waking up, but a lot of our doctors still say, oh, food doesn't matter, which is arrogant and absolutely wrong. And we need to get more clinical research to show food absolutely matters. And if it's got glyphosate and toxic load and nutrient density and seed oils and all this. So you come in with ulcerative colitis, you have some minor symptoms. When you looked at Crohn's colitis lifestyle, what were the things that made you feel like this could be the home for me?
Yeah, I would say like for me, just looking through all the testimonies of people and seeing the success stories, and like granted, I didn't have as severe symptoms as a lot of them did. So I was like, you know what? Like if they can see improvement in their symptoms, like granted, like the medication, it did help some, like to where my symptoms were controlled for the most part. Like I was still having like some semi-formed stools and urgency, but I didn't want to like, and also undigested food in my stool too. But I didn't want to keep increasing the medications because it's like I kind of knew what was at the end of that path. I also work as a nurse during the day and I've seen some of those patients come in and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to go down this road that you guys are going down. So anyway, so that's why I just decided to.
Get empowered?
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
there's so many, like, so much information out there as well that I just felt kind of lost because there's the conventional approach and then just discovering more of like a natural way to maintain ulcerative colitis. And I knew it's something I'm gonna have to maintain for the rest of my life. And so
Maybe, maybe.
maybe, right. Uh-huh.
If we
So
found this much, what else could we find? Right.
exactly, right. And
Mhm.
so I was like, okay, well, if I can get a hold of this now versus later, like when symptoms get worse
Yes.
and they're talking about surgery or whatever the case might be. Like if I can just get a hold of this now and maintain it, just be empowered with more information, how I can like listen to my body as well and see what works, then I mean, that's a win-win situation.
Anyone listening to what Jen's saying, one thing I want to point out is she acted before it got intense. There are many clients who come in who've had it for 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, who've never taken that action. She took action before it got worse because how her symptoms were in high school to 2022, 2023 had just got worse. She saw a trend that it was, even if she was gluten-free or dairy-free, there were different, deeper root issues that she needed to get a hold of. So the biggest reason I think you're saying you join the community is to get empowered, to get a community, to get trained, to start acting on these root issues now so you can nip it on the butt and be free for the rest of your life and be empowered for the rest of your life, which is extremely good reason. And I wish more people would have that awareness. It's like, where's your community? Where are you getting trained? Where are you making sense of should I be carnivore, plant-based, or oxalate's a problem? What's going on with my liver? What are the labs? My doctor doesn't want to run labs. Where can I continue to check if it's mold, if it's parasites, if it's viruses, if it's biofilms? I think what you're saying is making tons of sense, but let's look at your symptoms. So when you came in, you were having 1 to 3 bowel movements a day with some loose stool, some constipation, some diarrhea here and there, undigested food in the stool sometimes. You were getting some diarrhea, undigested food. You were getting some abdominal cramping and pain right in the middle, and some bloating and gas. And then you were getting also some arthritic pain. We didn't know if it was connected or not because of your running on your knee.
Yep, I do like to run and work out, so.
So the running, and then your energy was okay, and your weight was okay, stabilized, right?
Mhm.
And so now, how many bowel movements a day are you having?
I'm having 1 bowel movement a day and it's formed. It looks great. So.
Okay, good job. 1 bowel movement a day, formed like clockwork, no problems with it, and no diarrhea, urgency, cramping, pain. I know you're still getting some gas.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
and guys, when we were talking about gas, I was just mentioning to Jen offline that because the decrease in her transit time, because everything's slowing down, that might cause a little bit more fermentation where some underlying SIBO, maybe some underlying liver issues she's still dealing with, just needs a little bit more work, and maybe be better for her to have 2 bowel movements a day. Okay, so sometimes when your bowel movements slow down, you might get more gas. Okay, and so that's what we were discussing there. And you're still currently using Apriso?
Yes, I am. Cut that back on my own. Like, yeah,
Yep.
nothing that you guys recommended. It's just something that I chose to do. Just
No,
lower.
that's fine. We will happily would use combined conventional medicine and natural medicine because this is about getting results, and it's you who lead. We don't tell you what to do with that. You decide to do that. So you've reduced your Apriso. That's a 5-ASA stomach coater, and it's a very light medication. It's not a harsh steroid or biologic, and it just continues to coat the stomach. It can be great to use. A lot of members might use it as suppositories, enemas, or oral, different forms of mesalazine to help with that. So you've gotten these wonderful results. You've only been in the program for 4 or 5 months, though I also want to mention that this is new for you, but someone who crossed that line, watched a bunch of testimonies, didn't have a lot of symptoms, but we talked about why you needed this. What would you say to someone who hasn't joined? What is it about this that makes it high integrity, makes it work? You know, how important was it to have Coach Z as your coach to work with you one-on-one and support you thus far?
Yeah, I would say just because there's so much information out there, it's hard to know, like, okay, like I'll take this and then I'll kind of go over here. What made this so valuable was the one-on-one coaching, was the personalized approach as well, and a proven system. So if I can just plug into a system that has already been proven to work and I don't have to recreate the system or try to figure out everything else, then I just figured that was probably the best way to go to get the fastest results versus trying to do it all on my own.
How important was it to have Coach Z to your success thus far? To have, you know, what was it like to work with Z, and what did he help you really do? And if there's one thing you think has really helped you in your pro goal that you want to shout out to anyone listening to your story, what would you say it is?
I would say just he really helped personalize daily blueprint for me, just based off of like what we were thinking of my potential root causes, and then also lab results as well, like what we were seeing. So it's like, okay, like we'll take this supplement, like recommend these foods. It was just like a personalized plan. It's like, okay, we would come together, do a game plan session basically. Okay, and then it's like, okay, execute the plan and
let me know how it goes.
And then there was the follow-up afterwards. And so just thinking, adjusting, and tweaking what really works best for me, I think, was really valuable. And
I would echo on that, the pivoting. Because even though you didn't have major issues, it's how's your body responding? What do we need to tweak? How do we continue to move forward as fast as possible? Because a lot of us, we don't know what to do. We're like, oh, I'm taking Tudka. What dose should I do? When should I move it up? And how does that work in conjunction with everything else I'm considering for my personal case?
Right.
And so we had that DM support, those sessions, plus 3 or 4 months, and then the program and community. Looking back on it now, what would you say about the program and the community for those who aren't in yet?
Yeah, I would say the community is really valuable. I tried looking up like Facebook support groups for like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, and it's like the blind leading the blind there, and I did not want to go there. So I would say just having that community and like that trusted information that's been vetted, that's been researched, that has the approach, the natural approach that I'm looking for, like holistically, and just a community of like-minded people who are going through the same thing, have the same kind of mission, cause, and purpose of all like helping each other out and just working on finding solutions together was really valuable, and having that for life, like that was
for everyone listening, you're a member for life. There's no subscription cost. There's no, you have to renew in a year or two. You have live trainings with our doctors, professors, with me, with the whole community of over 1,000 members around the world, and they're at their access at your fingertips on your phone.
Yep.
On the app.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then they have like continued trainings and everything. I've been like watching past trainings. Like it's been amazing. So thank you.
Awesome. Jen, thank you so much. And I know your case was not that difficult, not that intense. It's difficult, but the symptoms, you had already done a really good job, and we were able to come in here and get everything completely normal and do it very quickly. Any last piece of advice for someone who might be relating with you, who goes, I don't relate with the 20 bloody bowel movements today. I'm already doing some stuff, you know, any word of advice you'd give to that person, give to yourself 6 months ago when you were watching these stories?
Yeah, I would say it's really like over the course of time, like you're not always going to be the same. Like you may have some flares here and there, or you may not. You may be in more of a remission state. But if you can get a hold of the symptoms now and just be able to help control and manage those, and then just be empowered, like, okay, how can I help whenever I do have a flare? Or like, what are some of the tools in my toolbox that I can use? And then you always have the community there too. If you ever have any questions, or like, hey, I'm experiencing this, or hey, have you tried this? Like, I would say that's just been really valuable. So overall, so thank you so much.